Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the E-commerce Evolution podcast. I'm your host, Brett Curry, CEO of OMG Commerce. And today I have a treat for you because you get to meet one of OMG's finest. And we get to talk about a topic that is one of my favorite all-time topics when it comes to marketing. We're going to look at how to build full funnel growth using Google Ads. So using all that Google has to offer you, how do you create full funnel growth? We're going to get a little bit nerdy, but I also want to help make sure this is practical and applicable and easy to understand. And so my guest today is a team member at Team OMG that I actually get to work with almost on a daily basis, which I don't know if that's a privilege for this guy or if he dreads it. I really don't know. We'll find out right now on the podcast. But I'll give more of an intro in just a minute. But welcome to the show, Matt Slaymaker. What's up, Matt? How you doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm doing great.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on here. I know, it's one of those things when your boss reaches out and says, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" You're like, well, can I say no? Can I not say no? But but you and I have done a few things together. We did a webinar not too long ago with our Google reps. You did an amazing job, and so really excited to pick your brain and dive into this full funnel growth topic for Google Ads. But before we do, all of you listening should know a couple things about Matt. Not only is Matt, a rock star and one of the best when it comes to Google Ads management, he also is the owner of quite the interesting nickname. Now, I call him Slaymaker a lot, but in football, growing up, I heard that Matt was called Slaymaker the Playmaker. Maybe we could even hear the quick story on that, Matt. How did you get dubbed the title Slaymaker the Playmaker?
I'll tell you, it did not come from making plays.
That's even better.
I was by far the smallest member of the football team, so I really didn't make any plays. But one of the moms just loved my last name. So anytime I would just take the field, do anything, make one tackle throughout the whole game, I'd hear Slaymaker the Playmaker.
Yeah.
And that's how that started.
That makes that nickname way better. It's one of those things where it's like, thanks, Mom. Thanks for calling me the Playmaker. Moms just have a way of making people feel good. So that's awesome. Slaymaker the Playmaker. I remember that. But even if you weren't totally lighting up the football field, you were lighting up the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu mat. And so tell people, Matt Slaymaker, what belt you achieved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And if you don't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this might not be as impressive. Well, it'll be impressive regardless. But what belt did you achieve?
Yeah, don't downplay Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is top level in martial arts.
This is top level. Yeah.
I eventually ended up at first degree black belt. So if anyone doesn't know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, it's like wrestling, but it has the submission component to it. So arm bars, chokes, all that kind of stuff.
And so I did not grow up doing martial arts. I played football, basketball, but I recently, my kids and I took some BJJ classes. I know you know that, Matt. We talked about that. I've got a couple friends that are amazing BJJ practitioners. Ezra Firestone is one of them. But I learned that it's the hardest martial art to get your black belt in. Like, not like it's easy to get a black belt in any other martial art, but it takes the longest. It's the hardest to get your black belt. So
it's that balance between the physical component, which is really hard. And I'm sure, as you've seen, it's a great workout.
It's an amazing workout. Yeah.
But then all that technique that you just have to memorize and download into your brain. Luckily, when I was younger, going through it, it's easy to remember that kind of stuff. That's, I can imagine it's probably hard for you, but
I don't know. Was that an old joke, Matt? What are we trying to say here? We're trying to say, it actually was hard. But I really enjoyed it. So let's dive into this topic of Google Ads management. And I want to kind of preface this by saying, so Matt is a Google specialist. Actually, you want to tell people what you do, Matt? What does a Google specialist do? What's a day look like for you here at OMG?
Yeah, so a Google specialist at OMG and at any other agency, really, we use Google Ads to do two things, really. Demand generation, so getting people interested in your brand, your products, what you do, building awareness and consideration for that kind of stuff, and then capturing demand that's already there. So people who are actively searching for that kind of stuff, people who are actively searching for you or have been to your website before, getting those people to actually end up converting. So our goal is to move people through what we call a funnel, starting at that awareness level down to consideration, eventually get them to purchase, and then not just stop there. We want them to purchase again later on down the road. And we call that loyalty. And then a step below that's called advocacy, getting people to go share and tell their friends about that kind of stuff. So my goal is to use the tools available through Google Ads, which is Google Search, Google Shopping, YouTube, Display, and Discover to move people through that funnel.
Yeah, love that, and great breakdown there. And just want to mention, and this is probably very obvious to everyone listening, but really Google touches essentially every online user, right? If you're going to search for something, you're looking for a product, you're researching for reviews, or you're actually looking to make a purchase, you're probably going to touch Google at some point in time. Maybe you buy on Amazon eventually, but you're probably going to touch Amazon. You're probably going to touch Google along the way. If you're looking to learn or research or do or buy or something and you want to look at video first, you're probably going to YouTube, right? So those are the two most trafficked websites on the planet. Google number one, YouTube number two. So you have access to both of those through Google Ads. And then through the Google Display Network, which we'll talk about in a minute, you can access like 80-some% of the web that way too. So whoever you're trying to target, you can reach through Google Ads. So let's dive in a little bit, Matt. Slaymaker the Playmaker. Let's talk about kind of the foundation. So if we're looking at how to build a full funnel on YouTube, I like to really start more at the bottom, mid and bottom of funnel before we go higher than that. But let's break this down by channel a little bit. Let's talk search ads first. So e-commerce store, where should they start? What should they consider when it comes to search ads? And maybe talk to me about what search ads are, just to make sure we're all really clear.
Yeah, so search ads, it'll sound obvious once I kind of explain it, but search ads are those ads that appear at the top of Google search. So if you go do a search for
these are text ads.
Yeah, those and so we'll talk about shopping ads a little bit later, but these are those text ads that only have the text elements to it. Usually you'll get 2 or 3 up at the very top of Google, and then you'll see a few down at the bottom. So when it comes to Google search ads, there's a couple key components there to what you got to piece together for those campaigns. Where you typically are going to start are going to be at your keywords. And with keywords, typically we break these down into 3 categories. You've got your branded keywords, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Non-branded keywords. So these are people doing that kind of hats online for sale search. And then competitor keywords. So any of your competitors out there who we want to bid on, we want to steal some traffic from, we can target those types of keywords. The other component of this are the ads themselves. So in piecing together those ads, determining which keywords we want to show for, we got to get an ad in front of them. And with those ads, can't just put up an ad and say who we are and expect people to click on it and convert. We've got to usually address 3 main things: who we are, what are we selling, and why should somebody buy from us. And I think that third one, the why, is really the most important part. Because when somebody does do that search, hats for sale, they're going to see 3 ads there. That why is really what gets them to click on us as opposed to those other ones there.
Yeah, I love that. And it's also really important that you have to put the ad in the context of that keyword, right? And this is what makes Google unique to really any other advertising type, is that it's intent based. And what we're talking about now is query based. So it's search based. You know exactly what someone is searching for. Google knows that. And so then you can tailor your ad to answer that question or that query that someone's typing in. And then, address that, what we're offering, why you should click on our ad. You can address those things. And it's just super, super powerful. And I want to talk about something you hit on in the beginning, Matt, which is really important to underscore. We kind of classify e-commerce brands in 2 categories, and most brands kind of straddle the 2 categories a little bit, but they lean more one way or the other. And those 2 categories are demand capture or demand generation. And so demand generation is more, these are products you're maybe not thinking about. Maybe you've got a problem you're thinking about, but you're not thinking about a product. And so we have to generate that demand, right? So think about, some of the as seen on TV products that you've seen, like the George Foreman grill back when that was introduced, right? Like, no one's sitting around thinking, man, I wish I had a more convenient grill. I don't know. But if they saw it, they're like, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to have that and be like Michael Scott in The Office and cook, bedside with a George Foreman grill. But that's demand generation, right? Or there's demand capture where this is something you're maybe only going to look for when you have a specific need. So one example I like to use is auto parts, right? So if I am shopping for new brakes for my truck, first of all, I could just go to the dealership. But if I were doing it on my own, I'm not like going to be persuaded by a YouTube ad or a Facebook ad to, hey, upgrade your brakes because it's really great, right? No. But if I had a specific need, I would go out and I would search for it on Google. And so that's more of a demand capture business. Most businesses kind of straddle one or kind of lean one way or the other, but a little bit of both. To give you another example, Boom by Cindy Joseph, friend of the show, shout out to Ezra Firestone. They sell pro-age cosmetics, so cosmetics that are really good for you, but for women who want to embrace where they are in life and maybe stop coloring their hair and let it stay gray and things like that. And so they're more demand capture with a little bit of demand generation. As we look at that, search really falls into that demand capture space, and it does it quite well. So let's talk about two things. Let's talk branded search first, because this is a hot topic. Why, Matt Slaymaker, would somebody bid on their own name? Why would you run branded search?
This is one of the most common questions we get from clients all the time. They always ask, wouldn't it be easy? Aren't we going to get that traffic anyway? Aren't they just going to click on our organic listing there? And so aren't we wasting money by bidding on branded traffic? And really, there's three main reasons I say, no, absolutely, you need to be bidding on your brand name. One is simply competition. If you're not bidding on your brand name, your competitors likely are. And even if they are not, there might be vendors who are bidding on your brand name, whether that's Amazon, Ace Hardware, Walmart. It's almost always
somebody else who's reselling your products. They're maybe bidding on your name.
Yeah. And it's almost always going to be a lot more profitable to have the user click on your branded ad, buy through your website, then go through one of those vendors. But in addition to both the competition and the vendors, say none of them were there at all, what I've seen really strong impact from branded campaigns comes down to the improved click-through rates and the control over messaging that you can really have. So a lot of the research out there shows that if you do have those branded ads active, you see a 10, 20% boost in your overall click-throughs, both combined organic and paid. So a lot of people think if I just have organic there, I'll still get 100% of those click-throughs. But really you won't, because there's all sorts of other options for somebody to choose from. In addition, you also have a lot of control over your messaging there. So say you have a promotion that's happening at the moment. If somebody did that branded search and saw your branded ad had that promotional messaging in it, gives them all that more urgency to go ahead and click your ad and buy right then and there. So all sorts of reasons. I think competition is probably the number one. Make sure you're pushing those guys down the page and not losing any traffic to anyone out there.
I love that. And I'm so glad you underscored the controlling the messaging aspect, because if you don't control that, then you're really leaving it all up to Google. Google picks what they display in the organic results. Yes, you may have a title tag and a meta description that the Google could pull in, but they can also pull in something else random if they wanted to, if they felt like that was more relevant to the user. So when you run that ad, you control that message. And then in terms of the competition piece, I think this is really interesting. We have some clients, I'm thinking of one client in particular, where they just dominate the search results page if you search their brand name. They got YouTube videos, they've got the infograph, they've got, it's just loaded with their stuff, right? So, and no one's bidding on their name. So they would be okay to slow down a little bit on branded search. But most of the clients we look at and most of the accounts we audit, you look at their brand name, they've got 2, 3, 4 competitors bidding on them. You've got other things popping up. I guarantee you there'll be some people that search for you by name, click on a competitor, and don't know that it's a competitor, right? If you're not there. So you got to get there. And then I'll throw in one fourth reason, Matt, is tracking. So, as we're looking at, you got Search Console, you got Google Analytics, but a lot of the keyword data has been stripped from Google Analytics. So getting data to see how people are converting. And then as we do more top of funnel stuff, we'll talk about in a minute, then being able to see those people convert through branded search, really
Right.
powerful. Because most people, if they see something on YouTube or Facebook and they don't buy, the next step later is to search for it on Google. And we want to
That's
capture that.
that's where I love branded ads in particular, is being able to see two things. One, as you really level up and up your scale in terms of those non-branded efforts, those top of funnel efforts, what happens to the branded searches? Do they go up? Do they stay
Yeah.
stagnant? Great way to track that. But then in addition, you can layer audiences, whether they're remarketing audiences, viewed video audiences, onto your branded campaigns and see exactly how are our YouTube users who see that YouTube ad then going and searching for our name. So on top of those other things, competition, visibility, messaging, all that kind of stuff, the tracking that you just mentioned, all really cool stuff.
And watching the brand lift as you engage in top of funnel activities.
Totally.
Really smart. And we'll touch on that a little bit more too when we talk top of funnel. So what are a few things, Matt, that have changed recently with Google search ads?
Yeah, I'll throw at you two things. One from a keyword perspective and then one from an ad perspective. So back in the day, really, there were three match types that you could work with Google. There was exact match, there was phrase match, and there was broad match. A little later on, they introduced broad match modifier, which is somewhere in between phrase match and exact match. And for those who might not know what the difference between each of those are, exact match, the idea behind it is it's only going to show exactly for the keyword that you bid on, or some close variants, misspelling, stuff like that. So if you bid on hats for sale, it really should only show for hats for sale if somebody searches for that. Phrase match is a little bit broader. So it, in the past, could take that hats for sale and then show for anything that came before or after that. So if someone searched for cheap hats for sale or hats for sale online, then phrase match would capture that. Broad match would take one, maybe two of the keywords in that keyword. So if it was just hats for sale, maybe it's just going to show for when someone searches for hats or watches.
Or how to make a hat, or
how to make a
all
hat.
kinds
Exactly.
of crazy stuff, free hats, whatever.
Yeah. And so almost always we tend to steer away from broad match, even to this day. Broad match modifier, though, was something where it was a little bit more in between phrase match and broad match. So it was actually a good option for a lot of people. That, however, recently got deprecated. So that is no longer an option for targeting. So now we're back to the phrase match, exact match, and broad match, except now phrase match is a little bit broader than it used to be. So now it's going to capture a few more of those kind of loosely related keywords there. So something to kind of watch out for. And even exact match is a little bit more expansive than it used to be. So instead of just capturing misspellings or adding an S to the end,
plurals,
hat instead of hats, it's now showing for a few other more loosely connected things. So another thing to kind of watch out for there.
Yeah, and Google's on this definite trend where they're like, "Hey, trust us a little bit, right? Just kind of let's ease this up a little bit. Trust the algorithm. Trust that we want to, we got your best interest at heart to grow your business." And I don't think that's untrue, but they're definitely always trying to get users to trust them a little bit. And this match type discussion is important because we're trying to line up our ad with shopper intent and searcher intent. And what a really interesting stat that a lot of people don't know is that every day 15% of searches conducted on Google has never seen before, right? That's kind of shocking when you think about the millions and millions of searches conducted every day. 15% are brand new to Google, and that's just because as a population, we're searching more. We're searching for more things. We're using voice search. We're making up queries. It's not just the same thing as hat for sale. It's all kinds of random hats or random whatever, right? So broadening the match type of, hey, we want people that are kind of searching like these types of keywords that allows us to hopefully get in front of more people. So awesome. So keywords have changed a little bit, or keyword targeting has changed just a little bit. What else has changed in terms of Google search ads?
So on the ads themselves, if anyone was in Google Ads a couple of years ago, you might remember that they used to have what was called text ads. And these gave you 2 headlines and 1 description. They were very simple and pretty short. There wasn't much to say or do there. You had your 30-character limit for headlines, 90-character limit for descriptions. None of that's changed.
That was it.
Couple years later, what they introduced was expanded text ads. So these now gave you 3 headlines to work with, and then 2 descriptions. And not always will
And let
that
me just
third
say, for a Google shopping nerd or Google search nerd like us, like other agencies, it was like, are you kidding me? Expanded text ads, more real estate,
headline.
50% more real estate or whatever. Like, we went nuts on expanded text ads,
Oh yeah, yeah. Just that extra headline, that extra description to give you
dude.
something to put out there and say to try to pull that user in. Huge, huge difference.
Yeah.
So that was a big change and a great change. But now they're actually starting to get rid of expanded text ads as well. And now what is the default ad type for Google search are called responsive search ads. And these give you up to 15 different headlines that you could throw in there. Same character limits of 30 characters and then 4 descriptions. And Google will rotate these out based on the user's search intent, historical performance of those headlines and descriptions. So if it sees that, hey, description 1 does way better than description 4 when a user searches for this, we're going to show 1 at a more often rate than we would show 4. And then same with a lot of those headlines. That said, you can still have control over a lot of those things. So if you don't want your headline number 10, which says free shipping for US orders, to show as your headline 1, you could still pin that to the position 3 or position 2, wherever you want it to show in terms of that order of operations. But now there's a little bit more liberty on Google's end to kind of swap that stuff out and optimize based on the users.
Yeah, so again, Google is saying, "Hey, trust us," but in a lot of ways, it does make sense. In this case, Google is saying, "Hey, we're going to watch the data here. So you give us more headlines, give us more descriptions. We're going to mix and match. We're going to find the perfect combos. We're going to be able to line up this combination of headline and description with this type of keyword, this type of user, and over time, it really can work. You still have to put thought into writing those headlines and those descriptions, but over time, between if you're a smart marketer and you leverage Google's algorithm, you can see pretty magical results over time. Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
And then, one question we get a lot is, how should we budget for this, right? So how much of my budget should go to search? There's no exact answer here, but a good rule of thumb that we found is for search, anywhere, then this is looking at your Google budget, not your total marketing budget, but the amount of money you're spending with Google for e-commerce stores. Typically, your search ads are going to be in the 15 to 30% range, sometimes a little bit more. And so that's kind of what we typically look at. Any final thoughts on search, Matt, before we move on to the next channel?
Yeah, just on the, how much of your budget should go to search, it really just depends on what your goal is. So if
Yeah.
your goal is growth and you do have a more robust full funnel strategy where top of funnel plays a really big part, then yeah, that 15-30% probably sounds about right. But if you're maybe more conservative and short term, immediate term profitability is your goal, and you really just want to launch with search, shopping, and some remarketing, then maybe search could end up being more like 30 to 50%. And then shopping 30 to 50%, and display remarketing, et cetera, another 20%. So it really just depends on what your goal is. There's no set rule of thumb there. But if you're doing a full funnel strategy, which we think you should, then that 15 to 30% is most likely where you'll fall.
Awesome. Totally agree. So let's now move to Google Shopping. And this is a topic that I've been speaking about forever. Love it. But Matt, for those at home that do not know what Google Shopping is, what is it and why is it so important to e-commerce brands?
Yeah, so for the most part, Google Shopping is going to show in the same places as Google Search with some additional placements like YouTube, Gmail, Discover, places like that. But the shopping ads are the ones up at the top of Google and then on the side of Google, the right side, you'll usually see it, where you see the product itself, you see the price of the product, the number of reviews, all that good stuff. So in terms of behavior, it operates a lot the same way as search ads do, but you get a lot of qualifying information there, which is why I typically see that non-branded traffic. We'll go back to that hats for sale example. I actually see that almost always perform better on the shopping side of things than I do for search. And the reason I think that's the case is because
What kind of hat are we shopping here for, Matt? This is an important side note. I just want to know. I've never actually seen you wear a hat. I don't wear hats much either.
No.
What hat? If you were to wear a hat, what would you go with? We talking like a cowboy hat? We talking about
Yeah.
baseball cap? We talking
I
about
was thinking sombreros specifically. Right.
sombreros? Yeah.
When you don't see me wear hats often, but when I do, that's what you'll
You
catch.
go, yeah.
Right.
I love
Fedora.
that, man.
Fedora as
The
well.
fedora, yeah, the fedora. Can't go wrong with the fedora or the sombrero. Okay, good. I'm glad we get. So now every time Matt
Yeah.
mentions hat, you picture
Think of
sombrero. Okay,
that.
good. All right.
Right.
So
Right.
sorry, I derailed you. But yeah, so back to shopping ads.
Yeah, so the reason I think that those, sombrero for sale searches are going to do better on shopping than they typically do for search is because you do see a lot of that qualifier information, prices, reviews, and then what does the product look like before you ever even click on it? Because search ads and shopping ads as well, they are going on a pay per click basis. So you only get charged when somebody actually clicks on the ad. So if that price point is a deterrent for a lot of people, then they're not even going to click on the ad, which saves you some money there. If you only have a certain number of reviews and they only want to shop for somebody who has 100 5-star reviews, then they're not even going to click on your ad. So for those reasons, I typically see the people who come through on those non-branded searches for shopping convert at higher rates than search. Because with search, they might still see those differentiators, and we can give them an idea of pricing with things like price extensions and other extensions that we can talk about some other time. But for the most part, I think shopping is really powerful in giving a lot of those important information details to the user.
Yeah, shopping is really the workhorse for e-commerce. Google Shopping is the number one comparison shopping engine outside of Amazon. And so seeing that image, the price, the title, the brand, reviews, hopefully a good, good picture, seeing all of that is pretty compelling. So yeah, you're 100% right. The leads that come through Google Shopping are more likely to convert than almost any other click other than branded search. And so, we've found some of our clients, so like we have auto parts clients and others where shopping's 60% of the total Google budget because it just converts and there's a lot of search volume there. And so it's pretty powerful.
And another quick note there, just imagine from your own user behavior whenever you do any search out there looking for barbecue rubs for sale, anything like that, and you see a search ad up at the top of Google, and then you see that same company's shopping ads scattered out there as well. That is such a big credibility boost, and it's such a great way to establish yourself as the name for that product. So I think they can boost each other just by running alongside.
Totally. Yeah, and there have been studies done there when you have a search ad and a shopping ad together, it boosts your overall click-through rate, just kind of like you were talking about before with organic and paid. Same happens, and think about the ultimate trifecta, right? You've got the search ad, you got the hopefully an organic listing, and you've got a shopping ad. Like you are now super credible, and people want to click, and maybe even someone just is like understands the way the search universe works and they click on your organic listing anyway, but having those ads there help to
Right.
drive that organic click, which is pretty powerful. Now, a couple of quick notes that we'll talk about, and I'll mention these and then chime in with anything you have, Matt.
Yeah.
You've probably heard people talk about smart shopping, right? So smart shopping is a newer thing in the last several years. We admittedly were not fans when, at least I was not a fan of smart shopping when it first launched, but in recent years it has gotten way better. Google really emphasizes smart shopping. I'll have you kind of chime in on our approach in a minute, Matt. But one thing to think about smart shopping is Google has opened up more inventory. So not only do your ads show up in the search results, but like you talked about, your ads can show up on YouTube. So that's why if you've ever been on YouTube watching a video about how to fix your lawnmower and you see lawnmower ads or lawnmower parts ads and they're those shopping ads, that's part of the reason why Google's opened that up with smart shopping. It also has a component of remarketing built in and a few other things, but
Yeah.
pretty powerful. How do we like to approach it though, Matt? Because people are always asking us, hey, smart versus standard shopping, which do you prefer? How
Yeah.
do we usually approach that?
I think you've got to run them together because while smart shopping, it has a lot of advantages in the sense that, like Brett mentioned, that expanded inventory that isn't fully present with standard shopping. It does have a downside, and the one critical downside to me for smart shopping campaigns is that there's really a lack of visibility. You can't see any search terms at all. So if your campaign has a 3x ROAS, you make $3 for every $1 you spent. You don't really know what led to that. Was it
Yeah.
all branded searches? Was it all non-branded searches? You can't fully know. And that's where standard shopping running alongside of that can help clarify a lot of that stuff. Because with standard shopping, you do still have the ability to see those search terms. And it also enables you to get an idea of, are the non-branded searches that are coming through actually relevant to us? We had a client recently where we took over and their smart shopping was doing okay. But then we launched standard shopping along with it. And we saw that the search terms that were coming through were completely irrelevant. There were some good ones, but a lot of irrelevant search terms. And so that gives us the idea to go back to that feed.
Was this the one, Matt, that was, it's health related and it's like supplements, and one of the keywords was like boot or something like
So
something
the
like
example was they make health tests and gut tests where you can test your microbiome and gut health, stuff like that. And what was coming through were pregnancy tests or COVID tests and things like that, where they're converting really well for the relevant stuff that comes through, but all that irrelevant stuff, that's just a waste of money. So I think you do have to run them alongside each other. And then within your standard shopping campaigns, have a system of A/B testing where you do make some changes to your feed item, the product title, the description, stuff like that, and A/B test it and see how does that affect the searches that are actually coming through. So ideally, you can try to run them alongside. And then once you do feel like you're at a point where the shopping feed is really well optimized, you can phase out one and give more budget to the one that's doing the best.
Yeah, it really is owning that digital shelf, right? If we think about this like a physical shelf in a retail store, how does a product stand out, and why do you pay attention to one product versus another? Some of it's price, some of it's packaging, and so the way we work on merchandising through Google Shopping is through the feed, and just like Matt talked about, title, image. Maybe we're playing with price in a few different areas, but yeah, you've got to work on that test set. A lot of times people just say, here's my feed, Google, go nuts, and then they never look at it again, where you got to think merchandising here to optimize that and really own more real estate. Because what's cool is the more people click on your ads, the more Google will reward you by showing your ad more. If Google determines, hey, for these keywords, people love these products and they click on them, they're going to show your ad more. And then you're going to get cheaper click CPCs and likely more conversions. And so optimizing that is super, super important.
Yeah, what Brett is referring to is a component of what's called quality score. And quality scores, and this is especially important when it comes to your search campaigns, looks at three main things. Your ad relevance, so does the ad talk about the keyword that just got searched for? The landing page relevance, does the page that you're sending them to talk about what somebody just searched for? And then your historical expected click-through rate. And that's exactly what Brett just talked about. If your ads are getting clicked on more than other people's ads, Google's going to reward you for that.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant innovation, quality score, that I really think it was the magic ingredient that helped Google become what it is today, because it incentivized advertisers to make great ads. And it incentivized them by charging them lower rates if they had a good quality score. It just led to advertisers getting smarter, and then it led to users getting what they want, and then it led to Google making bazillions of dollars. And so everyone's happy, I think. Awesome. So that's we got search, we got shopping. Let's talk remarketing now. So we're kind of building the foundation of our full funnel growth. I'm watching the clock, Matt. We've been getting excited, and I'm going to blame myself here because I get long-winded. We're not going to leave ourselves very much time for top of funnel. That's okay. We can always circle back to top of funnel and go deeper later. We will touch on it. But so we got search and shopping. Those are foundational. Let's talk remarketing now as well. So what channels do we recommend for remarketing? And what are some of your top remarketing tips?
That's going to be a tough one to be brief on because I love remarketing. This is my favorite component of advertising, honestly. So first, just want to break down what's different about each of these channels. So display network, what is that? That's about 90% of the websites out there, and it also covers mobile apps. So you've probably seen display ads there. Discovery ads, they look just like display ads. You have a little bit more characters to work with, but these show exclusively on YouTube, Gmail, and the Discover network, which is like a personalized feed through Google. And then YouTube is YouTube. So you get your YouTube ads and feed, or in the YouTube homepage as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so why do you love the remarketing so much, Matt?
I love remarketing so much because I kind of look at the funnel. I related this recently as like pouring water into a cup. And without remarketing, it's as if you have holes at the bottom of the cup where you're pouring all this top of funnel traffic and this non-branded traffic in, but so much water is just leaking out through the bottom and you're not actually retaining anything. I look at remarketing as a way to like patch up those holes and make sure you're keeping more of the water that you're pulling in. So without remarketing, I think there's a lot of waste out there. And this is our opportunity to follow up with people who have initially made contact with our business or have already purchased from our business. And we know that they know us and they love us, and to get more out of those users.
Yeah,
A
that's
little bit
awesome.
what happened.
Yeah, I love it. And we can all think of scenarios where we've seen a cool ad, we've clicked on it, we visit the site, we think, oh, that's really neat. I might try to check that out. Then we get distracted or we don't want to spend the money right then, and then we forget about it, right? We need those reminders, we need that remarketing ad to get us back. So let's talk audiences really quickly here. What audiences are we typically building to be able to effectively remarket?
Yeah, there's a lot that you can do. My absolute favorite is starting with your purchasers. So these are the people, like I said earlier, we know that they like us because they've already purchased from us before, especially if we can find a way to target repeat purchasers. So within purchasers, there's three main categories. There's the opportunity to cross-sell users. So these are people who bought product A, but they have not yet bought product B. So maybe that's they bought barbecue rubs from your company, but not the sauces. And we know those would pair really great together. And then the other option would be an upsell opportunity. So they bought product A, but they didn't buy the bundle. So maybe they bought a single barbecue rub, but we have a combo pack of 8 different barbecue rubs that we know you would like. So getting in front of them with something like that. And then the last one within purchasers is replenishment / reordering. So people who bought product A but haven't done so recently, and getting back in front of them with that because we know they know and love it, and just getting them to try it again. After that, so that's just the purchaser component of it. From there, you could, and this is what most people think of when they think of remarketing, is targeting all of the visitors who've come to your website at all. That's by far going to be your highest volume remarketing list, but it might see the lower ROAS because this is simply all visitors, regardless of their level of engagement. A step below that, in terms of them showing a little bit more engagement, would be product page viewers or service page viewers, people who visited a particular product on your page and have expressed particular interest. From there, another one of my favorite ones is called cart abandoners. This one typically will see the best efficiency on it. You'd be surprised, about 80% of people actually abandon their cart. And maybe it's more like 70%, but it's a really high rate of people that add something to their cart and end up not purchasing. But if we get back in front of them, almost always I see cart abandoners see the highest efficiency in terms of ROAS and really low CPAs. So the reason somebody abandons their cart can vary. Most of the time, they just forgot. They were that close. Now we just get back in front of them and have them finish their purchase. And the last one that I think you would love to talk about a little bit more are viewed video audiences. So this is where those top of funnel efforts that you're doing on YouTube really kind of come full circle. Maybe they never visited your website before, but we have made that initial impression on them from these YouTube ads that we're running for top of funnel. So getting back in front of them with the display, discovery, or even YouTube ad, just from them viewing the video is also really, really powerful.
Yeah, and really, I believe any e-commerce brand needs to consider what we just talked about: search, shopping, remarketing. I think it's a must for everybody, and for the reasons you mentioned, right? To get more repeat purchases, to close more of the purchases that you almost got. And what's really interesting, Matt, is we audit a lot of Google Ads accounts, and we audit a lot of Google Ads accounts of people that are spending, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000 a month on ads across Facebook and other channels. So some more than 1 million. And you'd be surprised, well, we're not anymore, but you'd probably be surprised how weak the remarketing structure is. It's like one remarketing campaign, all visitors, right? Where we're looking at breaking it down, and PDP viewers and cart abandoners and different recency windows and replenishment and cross-sell and upsell, and you bought this but you didn't buy that. So you build that out, and now you can be more aggressive with your top of funnel Facebook and your top of funnel YouTube because you're closing more of the people that you get to check out your site and check out your products. So I understand. I don't disagree with you about remarketing because it is really valuable and super fun. But man, I like the juice of top of funnel. So let's talk top of funnel really quickly. And we're gonna have to do this a grave disservice. We're gonna talk about top of funnel here for a few minutes, and then I know you did, Matt. You're trying to get part two. You're trying to get round two. You want to be on the podcast again. You're like, oh, let me just drag this out a little bit, and then Brett will invite me on for round two. So okay, fine. You get what you want. So let's talk top of funnel marketing now. Now, what are our opportunities? And this will actually be tie this in a little bit to remarketing too. But what are the channels for top of funnel? And you mentioned them for bottom of funnel as well. But why is it important to consider all the channels, basically?
Yeah, I mean, so the channels are the same three ones that we just mentioned. So there's display, there's discovery, and then there's YouTube. Every channel has its advantages and their disadvantages. What I really love about YouTube and discovery in particular is that really only one ad is showing at a time. So when it comes to YouTube ads, that's your moment in the spotlight. There's nobody else there. Somebody's watching their video. You get in front of them with an ad, and it's just you there. And discovery actually works a lot the same way. Say you're scrolling.
And what are discovery ads for those that don't know?
Yeah, it looks exactly like a display ad. It's an image-based ad with some headlines and descriptions, but it shows up on Gmail, it shows up on YouTube. So if you ever see an image ad on YouTube, that's a discovery.
Yep. And the Google app supposedly, but I don't ever see them there. I only see them on Gmail and on YouTube. But yeah, really, really great placements.
And each of these has its advantages and disadvantages. Frankly, I see discovery and YouTube see the best conversion rates in terms of, and it depends on your creative. If you have really, really strong YouTube creative and maybe more weak images, then YouTube might be your very best top of funnel platform. And then vice versa, if you have really weak YouTube creative, but really, really strong images, then discovery might be your best. But usually, so the other kind of flip side component of this, there's the direct performance aspect of it, which we measure by conversion rates, ROAS, and CPA. But then there's the awareness side of it. How many people can we reach with $1, with $2, $100? And that's where display is really powerful. So display almost always will see CPMs, which is cost per 1,000 impressions, of $2 to $4. Discovery, it's more like $8 to $10. YouTube, it can be more like $15 to $30. So, and it kind of corresponds with what you see with conversion rates, where conversion rates are a little bit stronger, the cost per impression is a little bit higher. So I would say test out every single one of them based on the creative and the images that you do have available to you, and then just see what works the best given your goal of driving awareness and direct conversions.
Yeah, and so 100% agree. I tend to lean towards YouTube just because I love it. I've always loved video marketing, and I started in TV a long time ago, and so I'm, love YouTube. But it does depend on what you're selling, right? If you're selling something that's really straightforward and simple, so I'm a Chiefs fan. I see your Tony Romo jersey in the background there, Matt. But I'm gonna one up you here. So I'm a Chiefs fan. Patrick Mahomes. If I'm selling Patrick Mahomes jerseys, I don't need a lot of explanation, right? I don't need a full video to tell you what a Patrick Mahomes jersey is. If you see the jersey and you see, NFL logo, so you know what it is, right? So discovery ad display, perfect for that, right? If there's a cool offer, I'm going to click, I might buy. If it's something more complex, so it's a new protein shake that doesn't taste like chalk, or this is a unique tool to fix your car, something that I need to see explained, video is going to be better for that, right? And the more you can tell and explain and show, if it needs to be demonstrated, then obviously nothing beats video for that. So let's talk about audiences really quickly. And these audiences can be the same across channel, across YouTube, discovery, display. But what are the best audiences that we usually start with, Matt, when we're going top of funnel?
So I have a bit of a power ranking system, and the power rankings have changed a little bit in the last year,
Right.
but number one is still undefeated for me personally, and that's custom intent audiences. So what custom intent audiences are, if you're familiar with in-market audiences, they are very similar to that in the sense that these are people who are actively in the market for something. They're actively searching for something. But with custom intent, we can tell Google exactly what we want to be those inputs. So instead of in-market, which are predefined, and maybe we loosely fit into one category, but not really all that much, custom intent allows us to drill into it a lot on a more detailed level. So that still is my favorite audience. I recommend testing that out first. From there, I would say number two on my power rankings are demo-only audiences, actually. And the reason demo only is good, and so what that means is just demographics only. So no audiences, no content, anything like that. It's just, what do you know about your target market in terms of their demographics? Maybe it's women in between 25 and 34 who are in the top 30% of incomes, and just target that. The reason demo only can do really well is because compared to any of these other audiences, it's going to have the lowest CPMs, CPCs, and allow you to reach a wide variety of people at a relatively low cost. So if you can see good conversion rates from demo only by having creative that resonates with that audience, then they typically work really, really well. A few other ones, but the only other one I'll mention is custom affinity audiences, which are similar to custom intent audiences in the way that you set them up and everything, but it's more based on their long-term interest rather than necessarily what they're searching for in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And yeah, the inputs change. So for custom intent, you're giving Google keywords and you're saying, hey, target for me people who have searched for these keywords on Google or on YouTube. And custom affinity is more Google, check out these URLs or these videos or these things and build an audience for me of people like those that visit these. And so
Right.
really powerful audiences. And I like your power ranking there. I think that's pretty
And
awesome.
and each of those really just talk about the audience targeting side of it. So that's one way that you can target on Google, is by targeting people based on what they have been doing, who they are, what demographics do they fit into. The other way that you can target on Google is by targeting the content of the video that they're watching. So there's a few different ways to do that. There's what's called keywords, which allow you to target the actual video itself. So if somebody's watching a video about female hair thinning, and you get in front of them with a product about hair replenishment, then that could work really well. Placements is another option there, where you can target specific channels, specific videos. So there's two sides of the coin. There's the audience side of it, where you're targeting people and what they're interested in, and then the content side of it, where they are, what are they actively watching on YouTube.
Yeah, love it. And so let's talk briefly about the creative aspect. And I will mention a couple of other episodes. I've done several now on creatives, but one recent episode, episode 184 with Joseph Wilkins from funnysalesvideos.com. Also did an episode with Andrew Ekblad, which I'm going to mention in a minute. But basically, you want to really think about the creatives because YouTube ads are different than Facebook ads or even TV ads or other video ads. They're just different. So we don't have much time to talk about this, Matt, but any tips or suggestions or things you've noticed about videos that work well as YouTube ads?
Yeah, like you said, it'll be a disservice to try to cram it all in about a minute here. So I definitely recommend going and watching some of those other podcasts that Brett's done, as well as some previous webinars as well. I think there's a few main components you can't miss out on when it comes to those creators. You got to hook them in those first 5 seconds. As we know with most YouTube ads, you have 5 seconds before that big skip ad button pops up, and most people are very eager to click that as soon as they possibly can. But if you manage to hook them in the first 5 seconds, where they do want to keep watching, that is really powerful. So that's the first part. Then you got to lead with that strongest differentiator. So don't save your strongest bullet point, the strongest part of your business, for the end of the video.
Don't bury the lead, to use a journalism quote, right? Yeah.
Exponentially, people are dropping off on that video. So if you can lead with the strongest thing that you think is going to resonate with them, absolutely do that. And provide social proof. That's another big thing. And I think a lot of times people think of social proof of, oh, I need a celebrity endorsement. I need to be mentioned in Forbes or NBC or something like that. It doesn't need to be like that. It can be as simple as user-generated testimonials. And a lot of times that converts even better than a celebrity endorsement might ever. I was talking with some of our other specialists today, and I talk with customers all the time. A lot of times the user testimonials relate more to them and are more powerful because they resonate. They can relate to that. That's me as a user.
They're believable too, right? We need to be able to believe and trust what we're seeing and hearing, and the right type of user-generated content really creates trust and believability.
And then the last component there is just have a strong call to action. So after they've watched that video, give them something to do, and don't just say it in a way that is, hey, click the link below. Create some sense of urgency, whether that's with an offer, or just more unique messaging. Have a strong call to action there at the end that gives them that next step.
Yep, love it. So the other podcast to check out is with Andrew Ekblad, episode 70. That was the first interview I did with Andrew. And if you, depending on when you're listening to this, I'm about to record another episode with Andrew. He's brilliant with video marketing, and that's ECKBLAD Ekblad. So search for that, e-commerce evolution and Ekblad. And so check that out. But Matt Slaymaker, this has been fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed it. A couple of the resources I'll mention if you want to learn and really dig deep into Google ads and YouTube ads, go to omgcommerce.com under resources. We have some guides that are designed to really help you level up here. So there's a Google shopping guide. I just refreshed that. It's also published with Shopify, so you can find it at Shopify as well. There's the top YouTube ad examples guide that really shows some of our favorite and most successful YouTube ads. So you can learn from some of the best there. That's all free. Then there's also a guide on creating authentic customer testimonials. So how do you collect those? How do you get those? How do you identify a winner? We kind of map that out in that free guide as well. So Matt, any final words of wisdom, anything you want to say as we wrap up and finish, part one of your episodes here?
I'll go ahead and plug myself a little bit as well. If you guys are wondering anything about how iOS updates impacted Google Ads in 2021, go to omgcommerce.com, check out our blogs. Recently wrote an article there talking about what are some of the big things that changed. Also, if you're curious about what's the difference between dynamic remarketing and standard remarketing, maybe you've never heard of those at all, go check that out on the OMG blog as well. Currently, our featured blog at the moment might not be for long, so go check that out when you get the chance.
Matt's,
assuming I drag this out long enough, I'll see you for part 2.
Yeah, exactly. So check it out. Matt is in the spotlight all over the place, so his blog is featured. Killer episode here, Matt. So awesome job, man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And as always, thank you for tuning in. We'd love to hear from you. What would you like to hear more of on the show? Do you have feedback for us? Leave that review on iTunes if you've not done so. That would mean the world to me. Give Matt some love online as well. And so with that, until next time, thank you for listening.